Tonight, on some shit!
Greetings, Anons, and welcome to the 4,000 subscriber special. First off, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for your love and devotion to our empire. We are slowly, but surely, getting stronger and more powerful by the day. Even though I'm leaving in a few months to join the army, I refuse to let spooky green text die. They told me to give up on you. They told me it would never happen. And they called us, oversaturated. But yet we proved them wrong time and time again. And it's all thanks to viewers and subscribers like you. You helped build this empire, and we're going to keep building it. And now, as I promised, I, Emperor Techno, will solve the Despair Code. Now, for those of you who aren't entirely familiar with the Despair Code, here's a brief rundown from my 4chan iceberg video.
Level 6, Owen. Very few ever make it to level 6. These people reached the bottom of the rabbit hole and kept digging. They have become enlightened, or darkened. They have ascended beyond our reality and level of understanding, becoming a new creature. An omnipotent being. Divine. The only theory listed here is the Despair Code. But this is so obscure that very few people even know what the Despair Code actually is. From what information I've been able to gather, the Despair Code is a pattern. In theory, if the universe was caused by the Big Bang, then all the formations of the universe are random. And if you tried to solve the code of how the universe generates itself, it would drive you insane, leading you into a sense of despair.
Now with that out of the way, I have done some more research on the subject, and I've come to discover that an anonymous 4chan user has claimed that he has found the Despair Code, or at least created the Despair Code, in the form of a musical note. This is his account.
I might have found the Despair Code. Earlier this winter break, I found I had a lot of free time on my hands. I was messing around on Mixcraft 7, poor man's Florida studio, with some simple single wavelength synth I got on a free Vista site. I made some chiptune stuff, then got bored. That's when I had the idea, see what it sounded like to stack notes at a frequency whose hertz value was a prime number. It took me 3 hours to go from 2 Hz to about 1 kHz. The more and more tracks I added, the more and more uncomfortable I got hearing it playback. At that point I had about 170 tracks running at once. Despite how strong my computer is and how simple synth is, the software was starting to glitch out on playback. So I kept adding tracks, but didn't listen as I went. Hours later I had made it to a bit past 4 kHz. I bounced the file as FLAC and heard it in its competition for the first time. It was horrible hundreds. It made my room spin. I was dizzy and angry, and weirdly nostalgic. It felt like my mind was on fire, and running circles, and I started seeing really terrible things in my mind. I threw my headphones off, but the sound coming through the headphones on the ground, as quiet as it was still affecting me. So I paused the audio player. It took me about 10 minutes to get back my composure completely. As much as I hated the sound, over the next couple days I found myself continuously listening to the sound. For the first 50 times or so I hated it, but I felt like I needed to keep playing it. Around maybe the 100th play I started liking the sound a lot. The original file is only 16 seconds long, but I made a 20-minute long version, and I began listening to it everywhere. It makes me angry, but in a warm way, and the nostalgia ending on Deja Vu is comforting now. And though I feel very paranoid, it also makes me feel hyper-aware and kind of powerful.
Now then, what do we currently know about the code itself? The despair code can cause both comfort and discomfort, depending on who is listening to it or for how long they listen to it. It can manipulate the listener's view of reality, and it is created from a mix of different sound frequencies, sort of like a Frankenstein mix-match of musical notes. But remember what Anon said in his post. Not necessarily that he created it, but that he found it through a musical frequency. This, in my mind, implies that there is more than one despair code. If there is a despair code that's a random universal pattern that causes discomfort when trying to be figured out or solved, there is also a despair code that could cause discomfort when listened to. Remember that Anon said that he put random different tracks together, different musical notes together, and created something that made him uncomfortable when listened to. He personalized and created his own pattern, a pattern adjusted for him. Does anyone remember when I did those videos on the Wario apparition? Yes, I know they were very awful and regrettable. I deeply apologize for that. But let me explain something. In the every copy of Super Mario 64's personalized creepypasta, it states that every copy of Super Mario 64 is tailored in some way to your own personal liking. As if a part of you in the game itself, you play a person's copy or a copy that it doesn't feel entirely the same. That's because that copy was adjusted to that person's personality and playing style, not yours. So in other words, what I am saying is similar to the Wario apparition and the Super Mario 64 creepypasta. What I'm getting at here is, what if perhaps the despair code can be personalized? Can every despair code be personalized? Yes. But now we must answer a different question. What is it exactly about the despair code that causes discomfort? And what is it that can possibly make you feel comfortable with it? Believe it or not, but through my many powers, I have a theory. You see, a despair code is a universal pattern which causes discomfort. However, Anon said the more he listened to his own despair code, he began to grow more comfortable with it. Perhaps somewhere within the brain, Anon couldn't feel comfortable with the sound he was listening to because his brain was not completely familiar with it yet. Perhaps there are parts of it that were trying to identify things that would sound familiar or things it would recognize, and it was having a hard time doing that. But as Anon listened to it more and more, his brain started to become more familiar with the frequencies and tunes of his despair code. He became more happier as a result because now he was gradually beginning to understand the despair code. H.P. Lovecraft once had a very powerful quote that the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown. The frequencies were unknown to him because they were random, but as he listened to them, they became known. As it became more known and familiar to him, the more happy he became because he could understand it. In other words, Anon went from being a doomer to being a bloomer the more he began to understand. Perhaps in a way, people are so unnerved and disturbed by Anon's despair code because they have not solved their own despair code. I hope you enjoyed my explanation or me trying to solve the despair code. Thank you for watching this video and helping support the channel. Thank you for 4,000 subscribers, and I will see you next time.